Hi, my name is Langston, and along with my group mates Jacob and Jonah, who will present shortly, we did our final project for ENG together and named it Farkle Bet. So just before we get into the code, here is a quick overview of how the app actually works. Once you open the app, you'll be presented with the tutorial screen, the rules of how to play, and the 3 buttons on how you would like to play the game. If you're playing remotely, you would choose player 1 or player 2, respectively, on which one you are, or you can play together in the same room. That would be the play together button. Once someone reaches 5,000 points within their game, the winner screen will pop up, and then you will be asked to exit the app. You can also exit the app at any time, but yeah. Let us run the code for the first time. And first, as I mentioned, you'll get these rules and the tutorial screen. As you can see here, you have some dice animations as well. Let's start with the play together function. And as you can see on the screen, you have your 2 players, one on the left, one on the right, if you're playing together. I will hit the roll button so that the first player can roll and get a point. So once the player has rolled, you can see that the combos show up in the table in the middle, as well as points. If you want to re-roll any of your dice, you can select the little check mark below them, press the re-roll button, and it will only re-roll those buttons that have been checked. Cool. Now for ending the turn and switching over to player 2, you can press the end turn button, and they can proceed to roll, get their score, do whatever they would like, and end turn. There was also a little gambling feature, hence the name Farkle Bet, that you can also have a little more fun with. Jacob will be going over that shortly. But for now, let's go back and run the code once again. This time I'll select the remote player, and with Jonah playing next to me, I will initiate my roll. Once the animation has gone through, you'll see my 500 points pop up, and I will be ending my turn prematurely. And so now Jonah's screen will be taking over because I can't do anything with 2 black boxes in my way. But now Jonah is able to roll his dice. And you can see my score update on his screen, the 500 points that I scored earlier. He gets a 4 of a kind plus 100. Good job. Congratulations. The end turn button will play. And once he stops sharing his screen, I will then be able to go back to my own screen, roll the dice, and be updated with his 1100. So that is how our rolling works. And eventually you'll get to the end of the screen and be able to see the winning screen. But for now, I'll take you through a quick tour of how the game works. So upon startup, you'll obviously see your functions. The Farkle Bet labels the player selection. And how we decided to do that between the remote and the playing together is that we assigned a value to each player. And player 1 being 1, player 2 being 2, no values for play together. But what it will do is the function will run based off of the value selected. So for example, if you're player 1, you will, if the value is equal to 1, then you will run the code that also accesses ThingSpeak. And the reason why that's important is that's how we transfer the scores over back and forth by just uploading the data to ThingSpeak and then pulling it back out later in below. But as you can see, in our roll function, we also have the dice imaging and the animations that you see a lot. We also have the calculating scores, the implementation of it into a table right here. And then also some other small features like sound that Jonah will be going over in more detail, the winning screen, the Farkle screen, and the case in which you're playing together does not require ThingSpeak. So this is just another else function. Jonah will be running through his screen in the meantime. And once he gets there, we can also show you the winning screen.
Hello, I am Jonah, and I was in charge of the sound and animation. Essentially, we start with the start function, which basically is the code that executes after component creation. So I was in charge of the animation, like I said earlier, and what I did first of all was do the dice animation on the tutorial screen that you saw. How I did this was I got 2 images, the right dice and the left dice, and I basically just changed the position by using a while loop and subtracting by the amount of speed that I would change. After that, I would basically just update it and use the draw now. And I was also in charge of some of the images on the main GUI and the main function, and as well as the GIFs. So the GIFs, let me just go down. Yeah, GIFs are part of the animation that we had. Right here, dice GIF, it's essentially just going to be able to be turned off, essentially the start function, until the roll button is pressed. And once the roll button is pressed, it will be paused. be shown for 2 seconds, and then it will be off. I was also in charge of sound effects. And also, yeah, there's the dice animation thing where Langston explained earlier about this using the random function and a switch case to basically change all the dice randomly selected with 6 cases because there's 6 dice. And then, yeah, then there's the audios, so sound effects. So if the player scores a point, they get a little coin effect sound effect. If they don't, they get an aw sound effect. And if they win, they get the yay sound effect with also their whoever wins gets the little congrats value string appended to it. And there's also the Farkle thing. But Farkle is very rare actually. It only happens once, like basically you roll and then you get no points. And even if after you reroll, you still get 0 points, you get the Farkle animation. And that's in the reroll section right here. Or not right there, sorry. Reroll. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, my name is Jacob, and I do the. My name is Jacob, and I do gambling, the scoring, and the ThinkSpeak along with combos. So how scoring works? So when you're calculating score, what you would do is you have randomized per dice. You randomize all 6 dice and you put them into an array. You would then measure how long that array is for each specific length. So you do roll equals 1. That sets all the roll 1s equal to true. Find them and measure the length. That's how many 1s, 2s, 3s there are. You use this to measure how many array of numbers there are. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and 3 pairs, 4 of a kind, 2 triplets. Basically, we can take, because of how our scoring design works, we can just take the length of how many 1s and 2s there are, and then we can score from there. So if I get a 3 pair, it's 3 pairs set to true because of this equation. I can get a score is equal to score plus 1500. Same with, for example, if I get a triplet here, and if I get number 5 is greater than 0 and number 1 is greater than 0, then because 1s and 5 score on their own, we don't want them to double score. We don't want to score 3 of a kind for 1s and then more 1s. So we just have it. We have like that. Combos work very similarly, but instead we just do combos zeros instead of the major combos. I mean, so there's major scores. Gambling also works very similarly. We basically put gamble and the score into a function. We get out a gamble score and then it adds or subtracts depending on what it is. Finally, we had ThinkSpeak. ThinkSpeak will work on, for example, down here. It's ThinkSpeak, if true, what we do is we have ThinkSpeak and we basically read a specific variable. That variable will be the turn function. Each person will have a player 1 or player 2, depending on what they click. If it's their turn, ThinkSpeak puts it there and we read the ThinkSpeak. If it's equal, then the black box disappears or the black box reappears depending on whose turn it is. Same thing with end turn here. We use ThinkSpeak right. And we had the end turns here. Where is it? If I quickly do end turn and I can find it. Here are the end turns, you have ThinkSpeak right. Basically what it would do is it would write to each field whose turn it is. If player 2's turn ends, then the field would become in turn 1. And then ThinkSpeak read would go back and say it's our turn. And since they're a while function, it goes on for forever. And then it allows one person to play and the other person becomes blackboxed. Finally, we also had the win screen. Win screen would work by essentially it would, when someone gets 5,000 points, you can win screen and then it counts as a win. As seen here, Jonah scored the 5,000 points and player 1 wins. That's about it for our program. Thank you for listening. Yeah.
Hi. So the last thing that we want to show was obviously the new gambling feature. So let's say we roll the dice and we get some point score. Once we get our point score, wow, that's a lot. Let's say we want to re-roll and try and gamble some points. I know this is a good roll, but stick with me here. So if we re-roll this, if you score lower than what you gamble, if you gamble what this lower than your score, you're going to lose however much you gamble. So here, because we earned 200 points and we didn't earn 1 point, we're going to lose the 1 point. If we look on this side, there's a different feature for getting above what you predict. So let's say I want 2,000, not really realistic, but if we want to reroll this 2 per se, we see our original score is 350, our new score is still 350. So even if you guess overboard, that's okay. None of your points will get subtracted. And theoretically, if you gamble the same amount of points as your score, you get double the score. Thank you for watching.